Healer's log, star date 0003. Coordinates set. Transmission begins. Welcome to Innerverse Dialogues, where we practice the inner work out loud and examine how language shapes identity, power, and belonging. We've been taught to name our experiences in ways that make us question ourselves, instead of questioning the systems that shape those experiences. And over time, we start to believe the language. In the last episode, we talked about belonging and the truth that belonging is inherent, not earned, not granted, not negotiated. But if belonging is inherent, then we have to ask a deeper question. Why do so many of us feel like we don't belong? But here's the tension. We have been belonging the whole time. What we have been given is a language that makes belonging feel conditional, something to earn, something to chase. And when belonging is framed that way, we start performing for it. That is how systems sustain themselves, by turning what is inherent into something we believe we have to negotiate. Part of the answer is this. We have been given language that frames our experiences instead of naming what's actually happening. And there's a difference. Framing tells the story that fits within existing systems. Naming tells the truth, even when it disrupts them. So let me say something plainly. I don't personally identify with the term imposter syndrome. And not because the experience isn't real, but because the framing is incomplete. The term imposter syndrome was never designed to account for the experiences of Black people and people of color. It emerged within a specific context where even within systems of privilege, white women were navigating patriarchy. But here's where I want to be clear. That framework does not fully account for the experiences of Black people and people of color. And I wanted to really take my time and name this with care. I am speaking from the I, because Black experiences are not a monolith. So I am speaking from the I and not the we. Black women were never given the space to feel like imposters. We were expected to perform competence without being granted belonging. We were required to be everything, from the time of being kidnapped, brutalized, and enslaved, while also recognizing the diversity of Black experiences across history. We were forced to labor under conditions where survival depended on compliance, while still being denied recognition, safety, and humanity. Laboring, nurturing, surviving, enduring, and developing a double consciousness, as W.E.B. Du Bois named, as a way to remain aware of one's humanity while navigating systems that denied it. So the norm for those outside the dominant group became working twice as hard while being denied recognition, access, and equity. So when we experience doubt today, we have to ask, is this self-doubt? Or is this the residue of systems that were never designed to affirm us? Because when I hear imposter syndrome, what I actually hear is this: the psychological impact of systemic exclusion, not a personal deficiency, not a lack of worth, rather the result of repeated assaults on one's humanity that can show up as decreased confidence. It's a response to environments that consistently question your legitimacy. And this is where my research led me deeper. Colonialism doesn't linger. It's not something that happened. In fact, it's something that is still active, as we are all experiencing and witnessing today. And one of the ways it remains active is through language, through the words we use to interpret our experiences, through the frameworks we inherit without questioning their origins. So instead of asking, what's wrong with me? We begin asking, what is being framed and what needs to be named? Because when we misname the root, we misdiagnose the experience. And this is one of the reasons why I'm so drawn to how Jesus moved. Because he didn't just heal people, he disrupted the narratives around them. For example, he spoke to the woman at the well when she was considered untouchable. He wasn't supposed to be seen talking alone with the woman, especially one that wasn't from his own group. He challenged the men who were ready to stone a woman while ignoring their own actions. He restored dignity in places where systems had already assigned shame. He touched the lepers, right? When society said they couldn't be touched. He did not accept the dominant framing. He disrupted the language that justified harm. He named what was true. You can read Matthew. He called it right out. Woe unto you, hypocrites. And then told them why I'm saying woe unto you, hypocrites. Right? Because you are worried about keeping the outside of the cup clean while the inside is filthy, like whitewashed tombs and dead bones. But that's not what we are taught to believe in how things are framed. So Jesus, he disrupted anything that attempted to justify the harm. And he named what was true. And in doing so, he restored people to themselves. And that's powerful because what I really see happening today is so many are disconnected from their humanity. So I'm not surprised in certain instances where I see where someone is not acknowledging the humanity of another because I can see they're not even connected to themselves. So when you feel like you don't belong or like you're not enough or like you have to prove something just to exist in a space, I want you to pause and ask, is this truth? Or is this a story shaped by systems that benefit from my self-doubt? Let me make this practical. Think about a space you're in right now, a room, a role, a responsibility. Have you ever felt like you had to shrink your voice, over-prepare, prove your intelligence before you even spoke? Now ask yourself, who taught me that? And what would it mean to walk into that same space without negotiating my worth first? Not louder, not harder, not doing more, just aligned. And this is part of the truth transmission sequence, is that we receive. So in receiving, we notice what's coming up. We reflect and examine the language you're using. Reckon. Tell the truth about where it came from. Like, why am I thinking like that? Where did I get that from? What is at the root? What is that limiting belief that is blocking my brilliance and making me shrink. And reworld, choose words aligned with truth, not distortion. I am more than enough. I do not have to prove my worth because I know who I am. Because when we shift our language, we shift our relationships to ourselves. And when enough of us do that, we can begin to shift the world. So I want to say this to those who are listening and those who are watching on YouTube. You are not an imposter. You are navigating systems that were not designed with you in mind. And there's nothing wrong with you for feeling the weight of that. So if this resonates with you, I invite you, follow the podcast, because in the next episode, we're going to explore how to work with these narratives in real time using the truth transmission sequence: receive, reflect, reckon, and reworld. And not just to understand the story, but to begin changing your relationship to it. Healer's log, closing transmission, coordinates reached. Until next time, pay attention to the words you use and ask yourself, are they revealing truth or reinforcing a story that was never yours? Transmission complete.